One of the early issues that we worked on was the question of how law enforcement should do electronic surveillance in light of the fact that much of the communications that travel across the internet, particularly in the smartphone environment, are encrypted from end to end. This caused the FBI and law enforcement agencies all around the world great concern. They were worried that they would, in their words, go dark, that they would lose the ability to conduct surveillance. Now, of course, at the same time, many people who look at the digital environment say, well, there's so much more information collected now about people that law enforcement is actually in what some people call a golden age of surveillance because so much data is collected about us and stored all over the place. However, we recognized that there was a real need for law enforcement to do electronic surveillance in appropriate circumstances. But we were concerned that what they were proposing could create real security problems. About 2 years ago, the FBI proposed that there should be what are called backdoors built into all of the systems that we use every day to communicate. That technology companies like Apple and Google and others should be required to guarantee that they could always turn over the plain text, the unencrypted text of communications that go between and amongst our smartphones and all the applications that we use. We tried to look at that question from a purely technical perspective. We said, what would happen if all of a sudden technology companies were told every single encrypted communication had to be able to be decrypted when law enforcement wanted it? We looked at that and said, that would mean you would have to keep keys, the private keys to decrypt those communications around in some sort of secure storage so that if a law enforcement agent showed up and said, I need that particular communication, the technology company could hand over the key. Well, our concern was that if you had to design systems that way, you'd actually be turning back much of the great security architecture work that's been done in the smartphone environments on the internet for years and years. Overall, we see an environment where there's a huge imperative to make the internet more secure, to make sure that all the applications that we use do a better job of protecting data. And now along comes law enforcement and say, well, make it more secure for everyone else, but for us, make it less secure. And from a technology design perspective, we studied this carefully and came to the conclusion that you can't really have your cake and eat it too. That if you have to keep private keys to communications around, not only will law enforcement be able to get those keys, but people who want to attack us, who want to do us harm, who want to steal our data, could get those keys, could find those back doors as well. So after doing substantial research on that question, on the technical question, we published a report called Keys Under Doormats, and it really, I think, informed the public policy debate all around the world. Authors of the report, including myself, testified in numerous congressional hearings. We had interactions with foreign governments around the world who wanted to understand what to do about this problem. And the result is that I think there's now been pretty broad acceptance from many governments, including, I hope, the US government, that while the law enforcement needs are very important, they shouldn't take steps to reduce the security of the infrastructure overall. So now we're in the second phase of this project where we're trying to understand what kinds of things can we do for law enforcement to meet their legitimate investigation needs without reducing the security of the environment overall. And I take this project, this Keys Under Doormats project, it's the name of the paper, as an example of the kind of research that we are doing at IPRI. We're identifying not just questions that are interesting technically, but that are also important from a public policy perspective. We're applying the best computer science and other engineering perspectives that we have at MIT to these questions. We're presenting them in the way that they're accessible to policymakers around the world. We're engaging with governments around the world about our findings, and then coming back and doing more research based on what we learned from that. We hope that we contribute to the quality of policymaking. We also think, by the way, that it proves to be a wonderful challenge for our students. So students who see the continued development of the internet and the other infrastructures that we use are really starting to ask questions about what are the larger social effects of the systems that they're building. So one of the things that I'm especially excited about at IPRI is that we have a growing number of students who are coming and saying, how can I learn to be a great computer scientist or great engineer who's also policy aware, who's also aware of the larger social impact of what we're doing, and can understand how to design systems and study the operation of systems with an eye towards the policy impact, the larger social impact of what they're doing.